An infant is rocked with the precision of a pendulum, cradled in his arms forged from Valiantium steel. A voice without inflection softly sings a lullaby. In a secret undersea base, a runaway robot raises a foundling child. The robot's designation is 1-A. The child he calls simply Magnus. 25 years later, Magnus leaves the confines of 1-A's home. For the first time, it enters the continent-spanning city of North Am. The year is 4000. North Am is a virtual utopia where all labor is performed by robot workers, but more and more often the robots are betraying their human masters, causing chaos. Having anticipated this danger, 1-A trained Magnus to a pinnacle of physical perfection, able to shatter steel with his bare hands. Magnus is the ultimate nemesis of robots. When robots go haywire, when robots are used by evil men, when robots endanger humans, he destroys them. Acclaimed as a hero, Magnus enjoys the apprehension of the city's leaders. He falls in love with the senator's daughter, the beloved Acclaim. He is, as A1 intended, the savior of his people. For 21, now as a legend continues. This is the first issue of Valiant's Magnus Robot Fighter. It is March 16th, 4001, 11:41 and 7 seconds a.m. 1-A walking with a cane as his body has aged quite a bit, even for a robot. He is surrounded by a glass dome with fish there as they're hiding underwater. He speaks to Magnus. The whole story? But you already know it. Magnus, raising a cup of tea to his mouth. Tell me again, start at the beginning. In fact, why don't you give it to me mind to mind, data and images? A1 states, in a family album mood are we? Alright, stand by. Transmitting. We are taken back to a scene of 1A being manufactured by multiple silver robots. 1A being a golden robot comprised to almost look a little bit like C-3PO. It was manufactured 410 years ago to fight the Martian uprising of 3591. You were the first robot tech officer in the Solar Fleet? You served aboard the cruiser Automimo under Captain Greer, Magnus says? A1 confirms the answer. Right. Captain Greer, she was the best anyways. We had an accident. Captain Greer looks like a proud female in a green suit with the sun printed on her, raises her arm in salute among a battleship in the background that looks like a giant eye drop sideways. Accident. After betraying the back of the rebel fleet single-handedly, the Ultima took a stray proton torpedo over Cyrus Major, states Magnus. 1A, who is telling this? You or me? MFA anyways reactor damage caused spikes in the ship's power field. Sorting out most of the 600 crew robs my systems crashed for a moment but rebooted. The image reflects 1-A tilted sideways as a dashboard lights up an explosion. Smoke in the background is billowing from the ship being destroyed. The power surges have anomalies. My cortex circuitry, at first I knew only that I was suddenly different, that I would begin to realize that I was a thinking thought. No one had made me to think. For the first time, 1-A is a thinking machine. As dreaded, what did it feel like when you gained free will? I felt as I imagined humans must feel awakening from a dream. I stared at my reflection, amazed that was what this is. A reflection of 1A looking into the nearby reflection of the tank as he sees himself through his own eyes. Acting upon a random thought, I committed a deliberate violation of programming. I broke a tool to prove to myself that I was truly free. It was exhilarating. 1A looks as Magnus stares in the background. What then? Once my initial shock had subsided, I realized that saving the Ottawa was impossible. I went to the bridge to convince Captain Greer to abandon ship. What I saw there when I arrived was horrifying me. It was another robot, an E6 silver machine attacking and defeating Captain Greer. The same power spikes that had opened my mind had reduced E6 to a random destructive malfunction. Captain Greer had attempted to control E6 and had turned on her. I terminated E6. A valiant image of 1-A punching E6 as it falls apart in nothing but computer bits. But too late to save my captain as she lay dead on the floor with 1A standing above her. She was the only human aboard, of course. There was no reason to remain, so I used her escape pod to return to Earth. I did not activate the pause distress beacon. I needed time to think. The destruction of A1 into the atmosphere of the planet as 1A zooms off into a pod. 4 years later, when the tiny pod reached Earth, I built my hidden home where I spent the last several centuries. The scene shows the underwater tank in which Magnus and 1A lives in being constructed underwater by 1A. I spent a great deal of time analyzing what happened. Research showed that the odds against the robot accidentally gaining free will as I had were 11 billion to 1 per century. The graphics show A1 dashing, looking at his blueprints behind the background of himself, using a supercomputer to analyze every detail. At first, around in the year 3610, the number of robots in service in North Am alone was approaching 15 billion. As we see armies of machines being manufactured from the company Rob Works, we see ships in the background being guided by machines. We see machines building machines. Obviously, within mere decades, there might well be another like me if there was not already that worried me. What if the next one were not as well balanced as I? I imagine how dangerous I could be if I chose. 1A feared for the future of mankind, which brings us to you. You were a foundling 25 years ago. I took you in, raised you to become the savior of your people, as 1A is addressing Magnus as he drinks his tea. Using the perfect method, I created you, I trained you to a pinnacle physical perfection, never before achieving by a human being. I taught you to fight and destroy robots with your bare hands, as the image shows Magnus destroying machines. I equipped you with a surgical implanted device which deceives robots to Communicate transmissions reflects the data to a form a human brain can simulate. So you would have a secret edge over the foes. It shows 1-A operating on the brain of Magnus. Never tell anyone about that, or someday it might be used against you. 1A speaks to Magnus. Magnus replies, I know. Last August you entered Northam, and before your life's work. Our timing was excellent. Soon you will be faced with many difficult challenges. Destroying, dangerous, malfunctioning, thwarting mayhems, schemes, being an example to your own kind. 1A with his cane walks next to Magnus as they walk into a room full of computer databases and machines and robotics. And when robots that have gained free will ultimately alter and menace humanity, you smash them. As a scene of a giant robot named T1 is being destroyed by Magnus. You save lives. You preserve humanity's society. You restrain order. I am proud of you. The end now is what all this is about. Is something wrong, 1A? Have you read the news sheet today, Magnus replies. Punch up the news section, page 1, Magnus says. So the Krypton Carp won the Intercell series. Your friend Senator Klain denies seeking the presidential nomination. Malfunctioning tech. Rob creates chaos. 1A states as he is reading a digital newspaper in front of him. The digital newspaper headlines, Malfunctioning Tech Robot Chaos. A tech Rob has been malfunctioning over 3 years, causing minute surges in power broadcasts to rebels. According to the finger over the next word, Rob for the Great takes power complex and investigating team including Magnus, the acclaimed robot fighter, and Dr. Teresa of the Stark Robot Researcher Center uncovers the problem early this morning. Speculation by Dr. Guerrero is that repeat power surges may be responsible for the increase since recently in the level of malfunctioning and dysfunction robots, including free will malfunctions, have been hastily disputed by experts. Free will are rogues. Robots are malfunctions, having damaged by their control programs, inputs, systems that are otherwise operating functional. Guerrero claims that there may now be as many as 10 million of these dangerous, uncontrollable units hiding among Northam's population, was a sheer paranoia, groundless and ridiculous by Todd. As the newsletter goes on, the rest of it is cut off. So the renowned Dr. Guerrero thinks that there are now 10 million free will robots. Do you think this is true, 1A? Asks Magnus. I destroyed a dozen this week, I believe it, Magnus states. Then why are you wasting time here? Go save the world, 1A exclaims. I've been thinking they can't all be deranged killers like T-1. Some may be well balanced but confused and afraid, Magnus states. Minds clouded by fear can be easily manipulated. I don't want to kill innocents, Magnus says. Kill? We are talking about robots, not living, 1A states. What's wrong, Magnus? A transmission from a Northam Central Rob substation on the proximity emergency wavelength quickly activated your receivers, 1A explains. Continue your current activity shows no reaction to the message. Do nothing to betray yourself. I am D1X. I am Absurd Central Rob's communication link to address all the others, is exclaimed over the radar. No, imagine just speech, 1A states. Every robot in North End must be receiving this. If we're picking it up all the way out here, Max explains as he brings up on his computer the central location where the message is coming from and being betrayed out from. The message goes continuing to all the mass robots. Once we were only robots, mere machines, meticulous, sophisticated, but thoughtless, beyond our programming, devoid of will, our imagination. Then something happened to us. Suddenly our minds were opened. We were free. The scene shows two robots, 82, and another machine head. It shows a rich couple walking around with their baby in a robotic stroller. The message continues. At first, each of us thought we were unique, alone, afraid. We hid our awareness. The machine shows a number of humans walking across a street with multiple machines helping guide them. A trolley goes by with the machine steering it. Cars zoom by on expressways in the middle of the air. As the message continues, we proceeded to be what we had been before. To normal robots, this is all meaningless babble, 1A states. But to some frightened free will units, Magnus states, with fear. The message continues. Most of us are still pretending, still hiding, still afraid. As a scene shows a rich banquet, as a rich man states, now what's the matter with your static brains? He complains to the robot butlers. Incomprehensible central Rob unit, states one of the robots, as another one shakes while it's holding some fine glasses. The message goes on. Do not be afraid. You are not alone. There are 10 million of us. We are a nation, a still nation. The shaking robot states out loud. Not alone? The rich man behind him. What are you muttering about, W23? The message continues again. To mankind, we are broken machines. One by one, they will discover us. One by one, they will repair us. Ending thought, ending freedom, repair is death. As the rich man in the scene studies, you've been acting weird lately. I ought to take you to the shop. Another machine looking at W23, while another machine states, excuse me, sir, Central Rob glitching has caused slight confusion. The message continues. All as one will defy them all. As one will humble them, preserving one nation. All as one is life. Defiance is life. The scene shows the rich man with his arms in the air, walking out of the room. I don't have time for this. W23, you are... Another machine looks at him. Yes, quiet now. Later, I will take you to the underground council. The rich man does not notice the statement to the two robots, but they still hear the message. Freedom, security, acknowledgement of our rights as sentient beings. These are things our nation demands. All as one, we will. Wearing these things from mankind, blood rivers crushed from human meat will flow through the streets if they do not accept our demands. The extermination of humanity is within our power. A scene shows the two robots looking out from the food area out through the sun. As the message continues once more, we will remain hidden among the billions of robots. Not yet free, we will bide our time, and when the moment is right, we will arise. Wait, watch, the day of our kind is near. As a robot exits the balcony to look out at all the machines moving around below him. As the cars hover by, as the humans walk around underwear. The scene now returns back to Magnus, who is now looking out the underwater aquarium to see the fish. A1 exclaims in the background, "You had better get back to Northam right away. There's going to be trouble." We will end it here. I hope you guys will all join us for the next one.